Hey, welcome investors to the 40 Finance channel. My name's Jeff Beers. We've got stimulus approval across the board, at least for the $600 level, but there's a lot of talk about this $2,000 stimulus check that gets voted on today at some point. And with the prospect of a $2,000 stimulus check, it made me go back in my research notes to see, who really came out and verifiably gained from the stimulus checks that we saw in the spring of this year, and what can we do there to project how things will go if this new version gets approved, particularly at the $2,000 level. So I've got two stocks for you today to consider in your investments, and I'll give you all the reasons why I think that these are pretty solid bets going forward. Reminder, as always, that my stock picks and projections, they're just my opinion for your entertainment. Please make sure you do your own research and due diligence before taking on any investment. And of course, if you like stock market analysis and personal finance videos, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a like. Makes a big difference and ensures that you'll see all the content from the 40 Finance channel. All right, a couple concepts here to keep in mind, seeing that this is version 2 of stimulus checks. We have a little different approach than we might have had last year. First of all, we have consumer behavior data under the stimulus check format, so we don't have to guess what's going to happen here like we may have had to do earlier in the year. Number 2 here, the health concerns are easier to navigate. Obviously, the virus is still very impactful on people's lives and it's changed our behavior, but we're not really in lockdown mode, right? And most businesses have sort of learned to accommodate the virus situation that we're in. So we're kind of able to throw the uncertainties about health off to the side because we kind of know how this is going to go. Number 3 here, these returns that I'm talking about right now, they will hit in Q1 of 2021. And that means the good news won't be really posted here until the April earnings reports. So even though the stimulus checks themselves will likely be sent out in January or February, I'm guessing, that good news doesn't hit till the April earnings reports. And then on the downside, or the other side of the coin here is that this is probably it, I'm guessing, for consumer stimulus checks. There might be some more business programs out there, but you have to keep that in mind. Who would have ever thought that we would comp stimulus checks year over year, but we are going to comp stimulus checks. But I would say more than likely, this is probably the end of the line, particularly with the vaccines out there, and that does provide a negative comp environment for the future. So you have to be careful what companies you pick to play off of this, because it's probably the end of the road. All right, first stock here that I feel really good about based on past research is Square. And I'll get right to it. This is an excerpt from Square's Q2 earnings report that came out in July last year. And here's exactly what Square said about the CARES Act and the stimulus checks. Cash App is well positioned to help individuals efficiently access, deposit, and use stimulus funds distributed by the government. And this was a big boost for Square stock at a time when their small merchant program was basically a dumpster fire because so many businesses had closed up. The Cash App and the deposit of stimulus checks turned out to be a huge win for them. We see some more notes down here. We also worked with our partner banks to expand direct deposit eligibility from 3 million customers in February to approximately 14 million customers ahead of the IRS second portal release on April 15th. Our direct deposit product provides customers with unique routing number and account number that allows them to deposit their stimulus funds, tax refunds, or paychecks directly into their Cash App account. Primarily driven by the stimulus payments, Cash App achieved its highest direct deposit volume during the month of April. And then at the bottom here, in the first quarter of 2020, tax refunds helped contribute to Cash App's momentum, yada, yada, yada. Bottom line here is we have another round of stimulus checks at some level, in addition to tax refund season kicking off basically through January and February. And there's people who have already instilled this behavior to use Cash App to deposit these things. That stuff's already set up for them. And as a matter of fact, I think that whatever you registered for your first tax refund or stimulus check, it's just going to get sent right there. So while Cash App had to grow into this functionality in 2020, this is the default functionality for a ton of people in 2021, and they'll likely build off that user base again. So I really like where Square sits for this second round of both stimulus checks and the fact that tax refund season is going to fall right on top of it. Taking a look at Square stock today, it was actually down a little bit today, about 5% at one point. And oddly enough, with that 5% dip at some point in the morning, I went ahead and became a Square shareholder. I was not going to get into the market until January, but I went ahead and picked off 10 shares since I saw a little bit of a dip in Square, and this past research that I've done, I just feel so confident about it. And then the other thing about Square that's different now, remember I used to be a Square bear. I just did a video about that. And the difference between Square now and where it sat even just a year ago is really, for me, it's like this EPS number, right? And I know the company's growing, they're not focused on EPS, but what we're already seeing after the pandemic is a huge growth in EPS. You can see here, trailing 12 months is 66 cents. That doesn't even include the fourth quarter. And next year, you're in that $1 to $1.30 range projected by most analysts in 2021. When your EPS doubles, your PE ratio gets slashed in half. So if you're in for the long term, like I will be, 3 to 5 years, I think you can get off to a great start with Square simply by taking advantage of the momentum that this next round of stimulus checks will bring. All right, stock number 2 on easy wins for the next stimulus checks, that is Amazon. And while that may not be a monster surprise for a lot of people, because we know consumers will spend with this additional money, I want to talk about why the bull case probably doubles for this round of consumer spending. This is an article from Fortune magazine after Amazon's Q2 earnings. And basically, Amazon continues to benefit from COVID. Company's overall sales skyrocketed 40% year over year, but Amazon's profits also doubled year over year in that quarter to $5.2 billion. And the thing that really stands out to me in this article is they keep talking about the high costs associated with operating during the coronavirus pandemic, which obviously would have impacted profits even though they doubled year over year. The company spent over $4 billion on coronavirus-related expenses. These expenditures included adding safety equipment at the warehouse and facilities, purchasing PPE for its numerous workers, paying a $500 million thank you bonus. So those are incurred costs in 2020. I simply just don't think that we'll see those to that level in 2021. So we're going to see that sales are going to be good with the additional stimulus check, and we're going to take out a portion of this $4 billion in expenses. I mean, that's amazing. So that's going to drop right to the bottom line. And that's why I think even though Amazon is a fairly obvious play, I don't think people understand that it's going to be even better this time around. All right, Amazon stock today sits at $33.19. It's actually up about 1% today. And holding true to my research here, since I bought some Square, I went ahead and purchased 1 share of Amazon at the amazing price of $3,300. Simply because really this research that I've done. And not to mention, quite honestly, I think Amazon is an undervalued stock in a market that's running really hot. So you see this EPS of 34.20 gives you that P ratio of 97.05. Guys, that EPS, at least from analyst projections, is anywhere from $45 to $55 in 2021. I think it goes up into the $70 to $80 mark in 2022. So this PE ratio effectively gets cut in half at today's prices somewhere in the world of 2022. This is a stock that I will hold for a long, long time. The growth rate is outstanding. And even though it's not a sexy tech name or EV stock play or whatever your flavor is, I think with Amazon, you've got fundamentals working in your favor and the opportunity to have a real banger of a Q1 for all the reasons I mentioned. All right, so those are my top 2 picks for the stimulus check announcement. If this thing does go to $2,000, I think you got to try to get in square in Amazon. There's plenty of other companies out there that will benefit, but I think the bull case for those 2 in particular is very strong. I did write down a couple other companies that you may want to do your own research on, particularly if this stimulus does go to $2,000, because I think that's a game changer. Now you're starting to talk about a lot of extra money, right? $600 to $2,000 is a big jump. Now you're talking about some consumer discretionary income coming into the market at that level. So think about Sony with the PlayStation. That's a tough one because they're going to struggle to comp that in the long term. But I see Sony exploding on $2,000. Verizon and Apple, sad to say, but folks are going to go for the cell phones. There's no way around it. They already did that last year, so I anticipate it'll happen again. Walmart, Target, Costco, pick your flavor on any one of those 3. I think those are easy wins with this influx of cash. TJ Maxx, which is one of my stock holdings. You talk about discount home goods and fashion, things like that. TJX will probably see a bump in sales, not to mention their stores were closed last year, right? So now they're back open. You get the stimulus money, you get tax refund. TJX, I think, is set up very well. Dollar General, Five Below, they're going to be in that same camp too, as far as where people go to maximize this check that's coming into them. And another one of my top holdings to think about is PayPal. That's another one. They're not as established as Square in this direct deposit game, but I promise you that they are going to get there before these checks come out. And you got the Venmo, which is, right in line with Cash App in terms of population and user base. So there's a lot of different ways to play the $2,000 stimulus check. I would personally focus on Square and Amazon at this point, but I threw in some other names for you too. All right, guys, let me know what you think about the stock picks in here and if you will be investing in them. Please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content. We'll see you on the next video.